pleasure to be able to speak to you. When you pitched the show, you proposed an 8-season plan. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
How difficult is that to kind of take this big map and then, narrow it down to the day-to-day business of the individual episodes?
I think it was important when we were pitching this show. It was such a big bet on behalf of Apple TV Plus's part, and it was such a gigantic commitment that they wanted to know that I had a roadmap. And obviously, sometimes you deviate from that roadmap, but it was important to them for me to prove to them that I had a roadmap. So I spent about an hour and a half taking them through all the broad strokes for the first 8 seasons. And we have modified it as we've gone along. There were a few events that happened in season 2 that in my original thoughts weren't meant to happen until season 3. So I've got the big map in my head, in the back of my head, and there's some information that I have that I don't tell the actors because I don't tell them where their character is going. I don't want to play the future. But then I treat each season as its own story, and then each episode as its own individual chapter of a story, and they need to work on each level. And so each episode needs to be its own meal, but needs to be an important component and a stepping stone and part of the larger narrative for the season. And then for the whole big meta narrative, I just know that there are little sort of breadcrumbs we're dropping here and there.
Okay, great. And you're also actively writing the episodes. But are you in a writer's room? Are you all pitching and brainstorming? And is there something perhaps that even you are surprised with that does end up in the show?
Well, sure. I mean, I've got my initial thoughts. I do a brain dump at the beginning of each season for the writers, things that I've just been thinking about. And but we have a very active room. A lot of the people that were on season 2 wrote on season 1. It's a very democratic room. I encourage people to argue with me. Most of the time, I'll let the majority, hold sway. Every once in a while, I'll invoke kind of papal authority, and I'll say, "No, we're doing that. I'm sorry." But I encourage people to fight with me. I encourage people to convince me I'm wrong, and we rewrite each other. I mean, sort of everyone, even though we've got individual names on each episode, we room the scripts together as you would a comedy. So we'll read the scripts aloud, and people will make pitches for every single line. And what about this? What about that? So it's a very egalitarian room.
That's great. And I mean, you also have a background in, comic book adaptations. And there's been some, with the internet now, there's been some more sway of audiences over the creation. And I saw that you did a Reddit AMA where you got feedback from internet users. Is that something that's also in your mind, how perhaps fans would react to this and that?
I consider myself a fan and part of that community, so I'm always aware of it. But I also think it's a danger to be too beholden to the fans, because as vocal as they are, they're a very small minority, less than 1% of the people that are watching the show. So you have to keep kind of both groups in mind as you're doing that. And then that's something we had to do when we were adapting Batman, something we had to do when we were adapting Superman or the Terminator. It's important to wear both hats, but know that you're making the show for diehard Asimov fans, but the vast majority of the people will not have read the books, or perhaps don't even consider themselves fans of science fiction. And so you need to keep both groups in mind at the same time.
Absolutely. I think we're out of time already, but thank you very much for speaking with me.